Welcome to The Knock, a podcast where we dive into real stories of real people who've experienced life before Christ and the transformation that comes when they answer the knock. Whether you're rooted in faith, feeling distant, or still unsure what you believe, our prayer is that these conversations stir something in you. Every story we share points back to the same truth. When you open the door, everything changes. Let's get into it. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of The Knock Podcast. Super excited today. We have Justin Stewart, aka Stu, with us today. So Stu is currently a police officer. He's also involved in some coaching. And Stu, you said you're getting into church planning.
We're praying over church planning,
Nice.
my wife and I. We're in the process of seeing where it goes.
That's awesome. And you also have a foundation. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I run a nonprofit called the Guild Fellowship, and essentially what we do is we offer executive level coaching programs and camps to first responders and veterans at no charge to them. We do men's and women's camps, and the whole idea of it is we're offering resources in a similar way to mental health, but for lack of a less dramatic way to say it is, once you haven't killed yourself, now what? You know, and it's not like we're not like a total PTS camp and just all this stuff.
Yeah.
But our whole idea is like, you need to learn to live on mission. You need to adopt an on-mission lifestyle into your life. You need to accept the fact that you didn't create you, so your purpose doesn't belong to you. And you need to find out how your life serves the kingdom. Mm-hmm. And so that's really what we're teaching. We're giving you a system that's based on what executive coaching would do to do that, something actionable.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
Stu, nice to have you on the show, man.
Appreciate you having me.
It's actually pretty crazy how we met. I feel like it was like a godsend thing, but we were just both randomly at the gym he was with Brad. I went to go say what's up to Brad because it was the day his episode was dropping. And yeah, we got to talking, told me a little bit about Stu told me a little bit about his testimony. And yeah, man, we're super excited to dive in to how God has changed your life.
Yeah, I appreciate it again, man. It was certainly a divine appointment because both of us were not planning to be at the gym at that time.
Yeah.
I don't ever go to the gym at that time.
Yeah.
Brad was there, so yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Most
That's
definitely.
awesome. So, dude, I have a thought of the day that kind of came from a Tim Tebow clip, and he was talking about how he, in playing sports, he put himself through the most intense suffering for what he went on to say was just a silly game. And then what really kind of landed with me on that, it's like, man, in life, whether it's business, whether it's our profession, whatever it is, we sometimes put ourselves in this environment where we want to get better, so we suffer, but oftentimes not for what's eternal, right? And when I heard Tim Tebow say that, I was just like, man. Like I even grabbed it and I put it on my story, and I was like, hey, this could apply to business as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think about just the last month, all the tough conversations, all the turmoil that I have gone through, the arguments, they've all have been centered around like business. And yeah, I mean, sometimes you get into the thought process, like, how much is this going to further my relationship with God? And then same thing on the eternal side. Like, does it have any eternal benefit?
Yeah, value.
And maybe parts of it do, depending on how we use our business and if we keep Christ at the center of it. But some of the little nuanced arguments have been mentally draining. But yeah, I think that was a great perspective from Tim Tebow.
Did you guys cop my socials before this?
No.
That's super funny that you brought that up. So literally before, I run a like professionals coaching group. It's just like a group setting, kind of low ticket thing.
Yeah.
And anyway, we do a weekly call. And so at 11 o'clock today, this is it's shortly after 1 now. Mm-hmm. I talked about this exact thing.
Wow.
Really?
100%. So last weekend, back in May, every Memorial Day, my birthday is May 26th, which has been kind of an interesting thing, you know. So every birthday weekend, I always do something hard and honor the fact that we're about to celebrate me, but so many other people have lost their loved ones.
Right.
It's just something that I've learned to do. And so the last Memorial Day, I did a ruck out at F45 in Wentzville with Jared and his people out there. Mm-hmm. And then went home, did some more miles, and wound up doing a half marathon by the end of the day. I'd never done that distance before.
Yeah.
And so I decided that I wanted to do something hard. So I signed up for a 22-mile walk that was this last weekend for 22 Strong. And I'd, again, never done a ruck that was that long before. Yeah. So I did the ruck, and then ended up going to Yoked because Matt and Brad and Justin had invited me there. Like, man, we really want to see you there. And I finished the ruck, and I was like really in a weird mental space. It was like the stuff that like runners talk about, and I'm not trying to like be braggadocious. There's a point here.
Yeah.
But I went through that like emotional dump in the car and was like calling my wife. I don't know what to do. And she's like, you need to lean into God and just see, are you trying to go to this workout for ego or, whatever. So there's a whole thing is the point, right?
Right.
Excuse me. And it was, what was interesting about it tied to that is mile 11. So I had said I wanted to do something hard. I wanted to like break the body down and just have me in the spirit. And at mile 11, I was like feeling good. I was feeling myself. I was like, I'm at 11 miles. I feel great. I'm like in top 10 position. I'm like, I might win.
Yeah.
Which I didn't go into it with competition.
Yeah.
Mile 12, I'm like, right before mile 12, I realize I'm starting to slow a little bit. And I'm like, I'm going to start jogging in the ruck. By the time I hit mile 12, it's like time to start getting humbled, right? And now I'm hurting. And then mile 14, I'm like hurting, locked up kind of hurting.
Yeah.
My hips are locked up, my knees locked up. Mm-hmm. I'm like pegging along, and all the people are passing me now. And I start going into the dark place of like, see, dude, you're not strong enough for this. Mm-hmm. The enemy's voice starts coming up. Yeah. The fast group has passed. I'm in the center where no one else is. It's just me. And I'm telling myself how unloved I am, how not enough I am. Wow. Every time I take I'm all that dark stuff, right? That is probably still unprocessed. This is probably the whole reason why God's like, go and do this walk, And it's like with my left foot, I would hear give up. My right foot, it would be like carry on. And that continued for 8 miles.
Wow.
So the rest of the race, it was 8 miles of just what felt like war with the devil's voice. Mm-hmm. And I just think that like, it's what's so interesting to me about what you guys are talking about is that's my favorite part of that. So after that, I went and did the workout at Yoked, and then I went home and I woke my wife up, and I was like, hey, it was like 8:30 at night, and she was still watching TV, but I'm like, you got to get up and walk with me. I'm too close to marathon distance. It would be stupid not to go. So my wife and kid got up and walked, and I finished a marathon distance that day.
Nice.
And went in. But what's interesting about it is mile 11, I was arrogant. Right?
Yeah.
It was all about me. For the first, I said I wanted to go and do this hard thing to get closer to God. I spent the first 11 miles being arrogant.
I'm gonna win this thing. I'm gonna conquer it. Yeah.
The 12th mile was spent, like 12 to 14, was spent on me trying to deny why I was there. And then I spent 8 miles, like humbled. Like literally walking and praying, the weirdest prayer ever. You pray to God, like, just help me finish this walk.
Yeah.
But it made me think of, I realize I'm dragging on, so
no,
ADHD.
You're good.
But it made me think of the Israelites. It's like 250 miles or something is what that walk would have been, and they wandered 40 years. It made me think of the Israelites. Like, I walked, just over a tenth of what they would have done if they'd have just gone straight. Yeah. And only 8 miles did I actually allow the Spirit to refine me.
Yeah.
Which is just, I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah.
Hopefully that landed.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think, for your first 11 miles, you're talking about just being fully yourself, but then God humbled you and said, hey, you got to rely on me to finish this thing. Mm-hmm. So I do think that has some...
I mean, dude, that's that's a life lesson in.
Yeah.
You said it was 22 miles.
22 miles. Yep. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
No, that's a life lesson in 22 miles.
Yeah.
You can break that down, apply it to just this walk that we're on, dude. Like that's, a lot of time even as new Christians, like we come in and we're like high on the Spirit a little bit. You start maybe thinking that you know a little bit more than you do when you get into the Word, when you're talking to folks. You could start getting that like Christian perspective of, oh, I don't do the things that this guy does, so I'm not that bad.
Yeah, you're remembering you're memorizing verses. You're able to present them in that way, and that doesn't. Your external is not showing what's internal.
But that's the thing about it is like, how can God use stuff like that? It's like we set ourselves apart, not to be arrogant, right? Not for the first 11 miles, but for the 8. Yeah. That was a lesson that we were talking about talking to my professional group today is like, when's the last time you've pursued anything hard for the people that you're serving, whether it be your team or whether it be like pursued something hard personally so that you could set yourself apart to where you could not only be refined, but also be influential to the people that are near you so that they ask you what you have so you can answer Jesus. And that's really what
that's good.
I think it ended on, because I went to Yoked, which was a great event. Get the info
that the same
and go.
night?
That was the same night, yeah.
Oh, man.
So I had only a few hours between the walk and the workout. I was in like a panic, kind of. It was just like a weird... All emotions with not a single one taking priority is the best way I can describe it. And a buddy of mine does... Grant Hopper, he does 50-mile rucks. And he was like, oh, dude, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, it sucks. But I called my wife. I'm like, I don't even feel like a human being. She's saying, lean on God. So I go to Project Power, take a shower, get in the sauna, rinse off, get in the ice. And now I'm feeling good again. And I wind up at Yoked. And people are like, dude, you're here. You made it. You did the 22. And it's all, they're praising me up. And I'm starting to feel good again, right? Like I'm like back at mile 11, kind of like, I'm a G, changing my socks. And anyway, there's this dude that also showed up. And he's like, yeah, I saw you guys. And it was really cool and all this stuff. And he's like, yeah, I had to tell them I wasn't part of your group because I was doing my run. I'm like, how far did you go? 35 miles?
Dang.
Running. I'm walking with a little bit of weight.
Right.
This guy ran 35. So there's God again, like, hey, man, what you did is good, and you should use it to get people closer to me, not to prop yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's like, this cat over here did 35 miles. You ain't the coolest dude in the room.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Dude, that's, but as men, like, we need that. We need that constant dose of humility to stay close to God. Because apart from that, we're self-reliant. We get these egos, these big heads. We can conquer the world. We could take the mountain. And then, there's people in life that do that, and they don't give the glory to God. But, for us as Christians, that's what we're called to do.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard, I think. Sometimes I catch myself being like, oh, all the glory is God, but secretly, like, my heart is like, man, thanks for praising me.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the constant battle, too. It's like, but you know what? We're all sinners, and that is an encouragement, and not in a, we're all terrible people, and we're focused on the fact that we didn't deserve salvation. We acknowledge the fact that we didn't deserve salvation, but not in a way that glorifies Satan.
Yeah.
We're not glorifying the devil for making us so evil and succeeding so well. We're acknowledging the fact that he tried and lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, what a segue, huh? What a way to get going, some deep stuff. So, man, obviously we do a little pre-work before. You wrote down some pretty powerful stuff that I can't wait for the audience to hear. So kind of walk us through. Obviously, this is a Knock podcast. We get on, we talk about testimony. If there's a time where, God knocked on that door and you answered. So why don't you talk a little bit about who you were before coming to Christ?
Man, I was a wild man.
Wow, man.
Yeah, I was in metal bands touring. I was a tattoo shop owner. I was a drunk. I was suicidal. The kind of the catalyst moment that I speak to is I had moved my family to California and opened a tattoo studio there that was failing. And saw that it was failing. I moved him back, and I moved into the apartment in my shop, which was still get emotional a little bit. It's been a while, but it's still like the conviction of who I was as a sinner. And so let me just say this. If I cry on this, and I'm not afraid to do that, right? Like,
Yeah, dude.
I'm good.
Yeah.
However, if I do, I would like your listeners to know that it's the sadness of my sin and the joy of my salvation at the same time that's causing it.
Amen.
So I lived in the apartment in my shop, which was just a couch in the back office. We had a 3,000 square foot building in downtown Hayward. And anyway, I lived in that apartment, and every morning I would wake up and I would pull a little plastic drawer out of one of those like little kids dressers you don't dare pick up because they'll fall apart.
Yeah,
you guys know the ones, or like the college dresser.
Yep.
And I would pull a plastic drawer out of that and walk to the front of my studio where I'd set it down in front of a janitor's sink. And that was how I took a shower. I would take red Solo cups, soapy water, regular water, and I would pour the soapy water and scrub off so the drawer would catch it. And then I'd rinse with the other cup. And then I would towel off in there. And one day I realized how sad it was that I actually had like a perfect system on how to do this.
Yeah. So how old were you? You said you
I
had
was in my 30s.
in your 30s,
Yeah,
and married. Any kids?
I got 3 daughters. Yeah.
So at this time you had.
Oh yeah. Yep. And they were oldest of 12, and down from there. So it was very. My youngest at the time was 2, right? Okay. So it was a very emotional place. And so what happened was I didn't know a lot of people in California, and I did, but they worked at my shop or they were bartenders, because that's where I went to make friends when the shop closed. Out there, it closed at 8 o'clock, and I was used to St. Louis. We'd work till 2, 3 in the morning. If you were trying to get work, we were ready to do it.
Right.
And I was a piercer, body modification artist, not a tattooer, and I owned the shop. So they closed at 8, and I go to the bar. We did the math on that. There was a craft beer bar down the street called the Bistro. I would go there. I would drink a couple of pints of, high ABV beer or whatever. Yeah. I'd drink a couple of pints of that, and I'd wander down to another bar called the Funky Monkey. It was like kind of the more hood bar is what we would say around here, right? You could smoke cigarettes even though it was illegal to do that in Hayward.
Yeah.
And I would get my whiskey, just JMO straight, and then a couple more beers, and I'd drink a few just straight pours of whiskey, some more beers, whatever, and then back to the craft beer bar. I didn't do the math for years. I'm 9 years sober now. I didn't do the math for years, and when I did, it was approximately like 108 ounces of alcohol every single day.
Wow.
So I'd wander back to my shop, and I'd sit there and end up falling asleep and rinse, repeat, until eventually I stopped coming out in the morning. And I would like hide in the back of the shop and like, I'm going to keep it really real with you, because I need people. Again, I don't want to glorify Satan by going into the weeds of how bad he made my life.
Yeah.
Right. And how bad I allowed him to make my life. But for the context, so that you can understand what Christ did. Right. So I was like peeing in bottles and staring at a gun safe. And I had a 12-gauge shotgun in there at all times, and I would literally some days sit and stare at that thing and ridicule myself for not even being courageous enough to end my life so my wife and my children could move on into a better world without me.
Wow.
That's how bad it had gotten. And, excuse me. And one day, my wife says, I want to go to church. Out of left field. We both grew up like knowing about God, but maybe not really knowing God on a personal level. Like the adults that bring you to church, but they don't explain anything to you really.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not to like shortchange our parents or anything like that. It's just, I think that was kind of the routine. And, I don't think she particularly enjoys when I share this about her. But at that time, she was not a believer. Yeah. And so much so that my kid had figured out that the tooth fairy wasn't real. And she said, we're going to have to explain all the things we lied about, and included Jesus in that. Because they were in private school. Mm-hmm. Right? So that's where she was.
Yeah.
So one day she just says, I want to go to church. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. That's really stupid. We're going to find a bunch of hypocrites there. Because I didn't realize that church wasn't a hotel for saints. It was a hospital for sinners, you know?
Yeah.
And I stole it from Dave Martin, who may have stole it from someone else. But the point is, I didn't know that, so I made fun of her, and she cried, and then I felt bad, and we went. And that's where things really started to shift for me.
Yeah.
How long? So that first day you went to church, when did that true knock start happening?
I think that occurred. I think that the knock had. All right, so I mean, your podcast is called, so I'm sure you understand. It's like hero's journey.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's like classic. It was like the knock had been happening.
Yeah.
Right, and I had been ignoring it, and things were continuing to get worse and worse. There's a verse. I wish I had memorized which one it was. It's Paul, and he's talking about sin in the church. A man who's committed incest, and he says, "You are to deliver that man to Satan, so that he might be saved." And I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
Right? But essentially, he says, "Excommunicate him from the church and deliver him to the devil, so that he might encounter God for his salvation." That's how that moment feels to me.
Yeah.
It was like, I'm going to allow you to get as far down as humanly possible because I have things planned for you. But I know that you won't answer. You've proven to me that you're not going to answer the door. So life for you is going to get very bad.
Yeah.
And the conviction in your wife's heart is going to grow. And I'm going to use one of the only things you love to bring you to me. Not because you're more important than her, but because I love her just as much, and I've already been trying to get her back also.
Wow.
And you have 3 babies that I've allowed you to steward over.
Yeah.
Whew. Excuse me.
No, I mean I could feel that. I can feel that. Man, so you said something that, you know, I want to talk about this a little bit because, you know, if somebody's listening and maybe, you know, they're kind of having that same initial perception of, I forget the line that you said, but it's the hotel of the saints.
Yeah, hotel for saints.
Hotel for saints.
Hospital for sinners.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And dude, I mean, so we had a conversation. So we go to Two Rivers in O'Fallon, and we break out into home teams. So every Tuesday I meet with my home team, and we were having a conversation about like, what is the outside perception of Jesus? Like what do non-believers think of Jesus? And as we were talking through it, it's like, man, a lot of people, it's not Jesus that they have a problem with, right? Mm-hmm. Like a lot of people will say, oh dude, good moral teachings. Like he preached on and taught on, you know, love, kindness, patience, humility, all these different things. It's usually exactly that. It's the body of believers, the hypocrites that people have a problem with.
Yeah. I mean, people's only perspective to who Jesus is the body of Christ. That's,
yeah.
And when we don't represent ourselves in that way, in the correct way, you know, we're putting Jesus's name, we're attaching Jesus's name to our bad actions.
Yeah. I mean, I think that with that, I mean, that's exactly where I was at. I was like, who are we going to find there?
Yeah.
You know, a bunch of terrible people that are going to tell us all kinds of judgmental things about other people and whatever. So, yeah, that's exactly who you'll find there. And you're one of them. You just proved it, you know? So it's like, yeah, they definitely have that. And there's a difference too, I think. I gave a sermon on this a while back about like if you look up the definition of Christian, it essentially just says that it means that you're a member of something, right? It just means that you're a member. Lots of people are just members, you know? The question is, are you a disciple? And when you look up the definition of disciple, right, that means that you're actually taking action on what Christ commanded. And we're not going to do that perfectly, but I mean, certainly it's like you walk into it, you're like, if you meet a group of Christians, as in you meet a group of people who belong to a church, you may or may not, what you're going to find is a whole bunch of people who need discipleship.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
So if somebody's listening and you know, maybe they're having that same reaction to you, it's like, for us three sitting here, like from your perspective, how do we solve that? How do we get the people that are on the outside that are afraid to come in, not because of Jesus, but because of hypocrites or hey, the judgmental churchgoer? Like how do we get around that?
Yeah, really. How did you take that first step? I know it was your wife. You did it because she was asking you to, but yeah, I'm curious to hear that.
I think that so there's a couple perspectives as I think on that question. I mean, the honest to God truth is the reason why I did it to begin with is because she was sad that I said I wouldn't and made fun of her for wanting to. So I just went.
Yeah.
And then that day, the pastor said from the stage, "Peace is not the absence of calamity." And I realized that I had been begging. I was still praying, I realized. I wasn't like paying, I guess, that much attention to it, but I was praying. I was asking God to give me peace, to take it from me in my own way at that time. Mm-hmm. And I realized when he said that, I had that like moment where it felt like I was the only person in the room and that God was speaking through this man directly to me. And it was like, I am the roadblock. And I am the one who's put up walls. I am the one who has said you're not allowed here. I was never left anywhere. Mm-hmm. I was the one who decided I wasn't loved. I was the one who decided I wasn't enough, which is what all human beings are doing, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're just asking those same questions over and over for themselves and seeking evidence from the world about which one is true, right? I was just doing that. And I think that once I realized that, I just started taking a little bit of action at a time, right? Like I started what we now say, we say mind the mission. That's like kind of the slogan of our group, is I started minding the mission. It was like, okay, well, what now? So what, now what? This is what it was. Okay, so what? What does that mean? It means I can't have a future? Now what are we going to do? Well, we're going to start to just explore. I got intrigued by who Christ was. I didn't even really get into reading the Bible myself for years after. I just put myself in proximity to people who knew God and tried to see what they had that I didn't have.
Yeah.
And after a while, I think you just learn that they don't have a whole bunch of stuff you don't have. They only have one thing that maybe you don't.
Yeah.
And what you were talking about a little bit, and it's been a big thing that I've just been praying a lot for my young daughters, is like, where do you feel like you placed your identity at that time before you found Christ?
I wanted to be, I wanted to be like a famous rock star. I actually just uploaded a video that my wife didn't even know the story, where I essentially snuck into a show that Randy Blythe from a band called Lamb of God, which is like one of the highest metal bands and was growing to that at that time, and let him punch me in the face. Right? Like, this is a real story. It's ridiculous. I get it. But because I wanted him to remember me, because it was like everything I did was about, man, we're going to make our bands famous. And then what are you going to do with the rest of your life? You're going to party.
Yeah.
You're going to tour. You're going to be around. But don't worry, it'll be cool, because eventually you'll make money doing it and everything will be good, because you'll send money home while you fail to lead your family, right? You fail to accept your role of head of your house. You fail to do any of this stuff. We'll replace all of that with money, and then you'll just, drink and party and travel and have all these great experiences until maybe you die on a tour bus, like so many do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't know that I thought beyond being famous at that time. Not only in that, but in body modification world as well. Like, I was not a good dude. Mm. I wasn't like the world's worst guy. I'm not trying to paint a picture of that, but I was not focused on anything else but like vanity and pride and just these types of things.
Yeah. So you show up to church with your wife, you hear that message. How long until that perception of the church, like the body, the people, how long did it take for that perception to change?
Not very long. I mean, everybody was so sweet to us when we started.
Yeah.
And I was covered in tattoos. And so, so here's some of the other perception is too. It's like, I'm going to come here and everybody's going to be like, look at, we haven't covered it yet, but my neck and face were tattooed. So, and my ears were all stretched. So, at that time, I just assumed I would come in there and it would be like, look at this, criminal meth head looking dude. I wasn't a meth head, but,
Yeah.
Not that, like, let me be frank there too. Not that those people couldn't also make the exact same change I did and often do. I've seen it.
Yeah.
But more for comedic effect, it was like, I'm going to get judged and no one's going to want me here.
Yeah.
And also, everywhere I went, my assumption was that people were judging me. So this might be a good thing to add for that as well, is if you're scared to go to church because you think that you're going to get judged there, I got 2 things for you. Number 1, you're not the center of the universe. For you to think that everywhere you go, people are thinking about you is incredibly, like, all right, megalomaniac. I guarantee you 90% of people that see you in the world don't care that you're there with them. All right, that's the first thing. So get over yourself. You're good. And number 2, if you assume that all people are just watching you from a constant state of judgment, just waiting for you to, like, like when you trip at the store and you're like, oops, whoops, it's me, I'm silly me.
Yeah.
No one cares that you did that.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But also, it's like, how, like, you're running around the world saying, I'm the center of the universe and everybody's mean. That's essentially what we do.
Yeah, it's not
right?
a good place to be.
The whole world's a bunch of jerks that are constantly judging me, the king, at all times. It's like, dude, you're stupid. Like, sorry.
Yeah.
And that's me talking to me.
Yeah.
And so I went to
good
church,
point.
and guess what I didn't find? I found some people that felt weird about being around a dude with a face tattoo. Again, dude, you're stupid. You tattooed your face. You knew what you were doing. It's okay if you want to tattoo your face, I guess. Do whatever you want. But you don't get to hate yourself in the mirror and then judge everyone else because they judge you based off of what you've decided to give the world. So it's like just all these little things start to refine you, start to learn about yourself. It's like, man, I got so many roadblocks up, so many like, these are all my rules that everyone else has to abide by.
Yeah.
And it's an incredibly torturous way to live.
Yeah, I mean, just from hearing you talk about this stuff, it's taking that internal responsibility, right? Like, just the theme of the way you're going about this, like, your perspective is, dude, it's not anybody else, it's me, and I think that's a unique and refreshing perspective, especially, I mean, in our culture today, where we love pointing the finger, right?
Yeah.
We love saying that, hey, I'm not going to go to the church because I'm going to be met with a bunch of hypocrites, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
Yeah, you
huge.
made a good point. I mean, we're all kind of hypocrites. I mean,
Yeah.
we're all sinners. Like, we're all making mistakes out here. It's not like I'm better than you, you're better than me because you show up to church and you put your nice clothes on that day.
Right.
And we've actually had conversations about this. And, like, a lot of it's your heart posture. And it's like, a lot of that is, like, yes, you should be able to tell who's a good Christian by the fruits that they produce. But at the same time, it's like you could have false, not really prophets, but just false Christians that look like they produce good fruit, but their hearts are rotten. So it's really that, yes, there's the community piece, but there's really that connection with God that you have to have the right heart when you walk into those kind of places, regardless of who you're dealing with.
There's a lot of stuff with that too. I think that, like sports, I compare it to jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is a very loose. A lot of gyms, when you go, they're gonna teach whatever techniques they're teaching that day.
Yeah.
And they'll have like fundamental courses and foundational type courses for people. But essentially, you show up and you just keep going, and they keep teaching whatever they teach to everybody, and it's everybody at all levels most of the time.
Yeah.
So I compare it to that because I think often we'll go to church or we'll think about church or we'll think about getting involved in whatever, and I think you said it earlier, it's like the judgment of how much scripture do I know?
Yeah.
Right? What I realized through committing to a year, I went through a pastoral residency program. And what I realized in that year is that there were a lot of men that are part of the church that I attend that didn't know things that I had learned over the year, but I had placed them on this big pedestal. Now, that's not to compare myself or be like, to then say like, oh, get off the pedestal. I actually belong up there. That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
But there is so much to know that two things. One, there's so much to know that you'll never know it all.
Yeah.
So just get over that. And number two, the vast majority of people talking about that Christian and disciple type thing. Are you a Christian member of the church? Are you a disciple? As in, I'm attempting to follow Christ.
Yeah.
There is such a need for disciples that if you take on discipleship and you actually seek to study the word to learn how to follow Christ, within a short period of time, you're going to be deep on the walk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take out wherever everybody else is, because what you'll find is no one's actually any further.
Yeah.
Right? There are people who are more mature in faith that have been doing it longer, that have a deeper, more spirit-driven connection and understanding of the word.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that they're like further along the walk necessarily. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That's good. That's good. I mean, like you said, like, you can have all this knowledge of Scripture, but you can read the same Scripture in different seasons of life and get a totally different outcome or a different perspective of what you're reading. So it is like a lifelong sanctification process.
Yeah, and I think that we have Matt said it best to me one time. He said, we have a great need for men to be expositionally preaching the word, right? Meaning understanding the fact that verse or that book, whatever, was written by a specific man at a specific time to a specific people about a specific event, right? So the scripture only ever means what it means. However, it can benefit you at different times in life. And I don't say that's a correction, but just as I think it's super true, and we have to be inviting that into our lives. It's like what you just said reminds me of, people coming up to Jesus. They're like, "Oh, we saved people in your name. We did all of this. We heal people. It's all about you, Jesus." And he's like, "Be gone from me. I never knew you."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you used my words. So you read the Bible.
Yeah. How did it change you?
And how did you use that to change other people?
Yeah.
That's the only purpose any of us have, is to advance the kingdom until he returns.
Yeah.
So
I mean, a lot of the times it's how you respond to the gospel. How do you respond to the good news of Jesus? Like we can get into all the different denominations. Obviously we believe one thing, right? We should all believe the same thing. But at the end of the day, for the individual, it's how do you respond to it? It's almost a call to action. It's like you hear the gospel. Now, what are you going to do? The ball's in your court, right? Are you going to live on mission like you coach, or are you just going to...
Dude, that's the crazy thing about the gospel, too, is you don't even have to, right? Like, God's not telling you, go out and do things so you can go to heaven.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
God's saying, man, it makes me feel so good when you do those things because you love me.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, that's all I want, right? That's all God's looking for, is just your love. That's why you can choose sin.
Yeah.
That's why we, I should say, can choose sin. Because God's like, I just want you to love me.
Right.
All the things, like your whole life, all that's necessary of you is to just pursue me, right? With your love, not your effort.
Yeah.
And that's what's so beautiful about the gospel, is you're not fighting. One of my coaches, Cody Jefferson, I think I'm trying to link you guys up, but he said that he always says, and it's not his words, but I just love him. He always says, we're not fighting for a place of victory. We're fighting from victory. Dude,
and man, sometimes that's such a hard thing to remember, right? Especially in today, and obviously with the coaching, you're running a business, like we run a business. You get into this KPI mindset, and you can almost apply that to evangelism or whatever. And that's a great point, that we're fighting from a place of victory, not for victory.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
God's not reliant on you to do anything.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, he doesn't need us to do anything.
Yeah. People in the book, the whole book, he's calling people who are worse than we've ever been to do things in his name, and when they fail, because they always do, right? Besides one.
Yeah.
He's like, that's cool. Like,
yeah.
I've known how this is going to go since the beginning. You can read about it in the first book, bro. You know what I mean? It's like,
dude, I love that line. That's
Yeah.
like one of the best lines I've heard on the podcast.
yeah. Well, it's not mine.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
probably not Cody's either, but he's a good dude, man.
Yeah.
He's a smart fella, and man, just a very encouraging guy who also, is doing his whole brand based around. Yeah, I have a responsibility to, his thing is on Dominion. He runs a group called 126 Brotherhood. That's really cool, and that's his thing. It's on Dominion. And he's just talking about, I have the responsibility and the duty to provide for my family and this and that. But what does it look like when I draw Christ in? And that's kind of how we got connected. That's what we were doing with the Guild and just with coaching and stuff. And it's like, man, the Christian entrepreneur is such a cool thing. And that's such a great heart to have, to be a builder for the kingdom. Again, not because you have to, but because you just love God that much.
Yeah. I had a lunch with our founding pastor, Ron Cathcart, like last week. And we were kind of talking about exactly that. There's some people that live their life, and I'm not saying this in a negative way at all, but they sprinkle some Jesus here, they sprinkle some Jesus here, and they're still saved, right? Like they're still gonna have, go to heaven and all that stuff. But then there's men that are called to do more. And, that's something that I think we're in like the baby phases of that. And meeting guys like you, meeting the Granados family, like it's super cool to see that, man, like these people are running businesses too, right? Like they're, but you almost wouldn't notice it because God is so forward facing.
Dude. And yes, we're running businesses, and that is super cool.
Yeah.
When I was praying, well, actually, let me dial it back. All right, ADHD. There we go. Right? But, to your point, you're like, we're kind of fresh in that walk.
Yeah.
I would say that, most Christians are like at the starting line, and they're not, most Christians aren't actually trying to follow Jesus yet. And that's not a dig. It's just maybe they don't know. That's why there's a great need for expositional men who know and understand the word and will share it on what it meant, what it was actually saying, right? And men who at the same time are actually trying to follow the walk of Jesus. Yeah. And if you have stepped over the starting line to pursue that, brothers, you're already like maturing in the faith. Like the moment you step over the line, you're already responsible for leading people who are still at the line.
Yeah.
So there's no division there.
Yeah.
You're instantly on, like, you are Great Commission. That's your purpose. Let's go. Yeah. Right? So that's super cool. And I think it's really awesome when you can build. I mean, I had like a money issue, not like debt, but like an issue with money.
Yeah.
And I think it came from the unforgiveness of failing in the tattoo business and all this stuff, like whatever. And a mentor said one time, man, if you don't deserve the money, does God deserve it? Because I was giving stuff away and just always charging low for services and whatever, because I was just like, I'm not a good person.
Yeah.
And then a mentor was like, does the kingdom deserve this if you're doing this wholeheartedly and this is going to help men know him and men and women know him better and it's producing fruit? Yeah. Doesn't the kingdom deserve the financial? So yes, that's all really fine and well and cool and good, and we should do that. I do believe we should pursue wealth to help spread the kingdom, or advance the kingdom. However, there's other dudes that like you wouldn't think about that aren't as public facing as like a podcast or coaching businesses and whatever. Like a guy you may know, Jeff Schneider. Mm-hmm. He runs. They have Grace Hauling. They have Inc. Like these are trash companies and recycling companies that INC stands for in the name of Christ.
Wow.
And they just incorporate it in the business, and you wouldn't necessarily know it. Shout out Red Dog. But anyway, we went through residency together, and he was over there. He talked about Ron a lot.
Nice.
But then there's this dude Jerry Fudge, who this guy's testimony. And I won't get into his story because it's serious. This guy's testimony is out of this world. And do you know what his ministry is? He does like Lyft driving and Uber driving, where he looks for opportunity to spread the gospel while he drives people to the airport.
Wow.
Or he picks up drunk people from the bar
Yeah.
and tries to give them Jesus.
That's cool.
So like I ask you, like this podcast is really important and cool, and like it'll blow up for sure.
Yeah.
And people are gonna be like, you guys are super awesome men, and you are, right? But man, is the tent maker the better to say? That's the thing.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know, man. I think about that kind of stuff all the time, and I'm not saying that for comparison, but I just think about guys like Jerry. It's like we think that we're doing these cool things, and we are, but man, imagine if like nobody knew who you are.
Yeah.
And you were just doing it,
Doing things behind like closed doors. Yeah.
I had a very similar, very relatable thought that's in line with this. So obviously, like, I don't know, like I was listening to something, and then there was like a Missouri lottery ad, right? And they were talking about like the Mega Millions or the Powerball. And I started fantasizing, like, man, what good could I do if I had all that money, right? Like, and I started thinking about like, you know, hey, man, I could the new construction that Two Rivers is looking to do, I could just fund that, right? Or I could just do this. And it's like, no, to your point, it's like, dude, with what I have right now, what could I do? Mm-hmm. It's like it doesn't need to be like, to your point with you said his name was Jerry Fudge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with Jerry Fudge, he's taking what he has and he's sharing the gospel to people that might need it the most. And that's, you know, so I just, that just popped in my mind when you were talking through that.
Which, by the way, if you ever have the opportunity to have Jerry pray for you, do it.
That's awesome.
he's a really cool dude. So yeah, I mean, there's so much opportunity to serve, and if you know, if you've got spiritual giftings to do this kind of work, do it. There's benefits to all the different things. I mean, certainly he has benefits. It's not like he doesn't enjoy what he does.
Right.
But man, I think about that kind of stuff all the time, man. It's like, how can I leverage my history and my talents to serve in a way and be in a state of constantly remembering to remove myself from it.
That was a little bit of the battle when we initially started this, was like
exalting self,
because this is going to, obviously, in order for it to grow, we need to post it on social media. It needs to be on all the media platforms. And then it's us two on camera or talking into a microphone. And that was a big thing that we talked about and prayed about. Was like, when we do something like this, it is imperative that we keep ourselves lowered and exalting Christ through all of it. So like, we're not doing this podcast to exalt ourselves or to make money.
Yeah.
Like, the idea is, how many people can we help bring to Christ? Or even people that are on the fence, how many people can, like, these stories that we're pushing out, or really, I mean, it's God that's like the way we met. Like, there's somebody that's going to hear your story and it's going to resonate. It's going to help them a ton. I don't know you. You don't know me. We just randomly met at the gym because of, you know, Brad was there. You were there at a certain time, and you know, it could result in something cool. So it's just being obedient, but also not exalting self.
Yeah.
It's easy to do that.
Here's, you know, the thing about this is, and I might like take us out of the like controlled environment of the podcast room here right now, but it's like it's not just us three men doing a podcast sitting in a room and there's no production. Like, there's a literal human being sitting right there that I don't know super well, who could or could not have a really super strong relationship to Jesus, who this conversation may completely change everything for. And if that's true, dude, we should just stop this podcast right now and bring you over here and have you give your life to Christ. If that's what you need to do, we would just do it.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's nothing, and I'm not trying to put anybody on the spot, right?
Yeah.
I'm just, but that's the thing, is it's like, it's everywhere at all times. You don't need to pray. Jesus came and saved the world and focused on 12 human beings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know? And he came to save the sinners, and that's what he did. He didn't try to find thousands and thousands and thousands all of his own, have a personal relationship with every single person ever in that setting. Of course, that's what he wants, right? Hopefully that comes across clear and not heretical, right? But it's like a constant state of like, thank you, God, I'll have another.
Yeah.
I just need one more person to be in the proximity to share you with.
Yeah.
You know, one at a time.
Dude, I mean, and we've seen that from, Joey, who owns the company and owns the building. I mean, we've seen that happen with him just through that. And like our whole thing was like, dude, if it's one person, just one person, like that's it. And it's, yeah. But the one thing we like to say though is like the only thing we're selling on this podcast, we don't have any merchandise. We're not sponsored by whatever this water is.
Yeah.
Turn it around here.
The only thing we're selling is Jesus, man. Cause everybody that sits in that seat, us too, I mean, we've been impacted by the blood, the love of Jesus in a way that, I mean, we can see it. It brings about emotion. Like it's real. It's raw.
Yeah.
And I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it's about, man. So let's go back to your story.
All right.
This is a great conversation.
Yeah,
I love it. But
yeah.
we will be here for 3-4 hours if we keep going the way we're going. So you went to church with your wife. You heard that message from the pastor at the time. What next?
A ton. I quit drinking. I can't remember if I had already agreed to quit drinking prior to actually going to church. Because, again, God had been knocking on my heart. Things were already starting to shift.
Yeah.
But anyway, I gave up drinking. Cold turkey, by the way. I never threw away any bottles of alcohol. I still have a bottle of alcohol in my house that I had the day I quit drinking.
Wow.
And part of that was because it's like, what is the point of pouring it out? Let me rephrase this. I'm not saying if you feel like that's right for you, don't do it. To me, it was like, I can go to the gas station right now. If I chose to, I could push this mic out of the way, I get up, get in my car, go right down the street, and I'll be back to booze. Right?
Yeah.
But the blood of Christ has saved me from that. And I never once had a DT. We're talking multiple years. Now, I started drinking at minimum multiple times a week at age 15. I was 33 when I gave it up. I'm 42 now.
Wow.
So 18 years. Right before I quit drinking long term, I quit for 30 days. Or I put it down for 30 days. Because I didn't actually quit drinking. I drink all the time. Water and NA beers and sodas and stuff. Don't tell Will. No, I'm just kidding. I don't actually do. I drink like the zero stuff. But the point is, I'm just trying to make a joke over drinking. Of course I drink, but I don't consume alcohol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I said, okay, no more alcohol, I did it for 30 days. That was the first time in 18 years that I had ever gone more than a week without consuming alcohol.
Wow.
Okay.
Dang.
So, again, no glorification of Satan. How come I didn't have any withdrawal symptoms? Which kill people, by the way.
Yeah. Dude, we've seen it firsthand.
Yeah. So, how come that didn't happen to me?
Wow.
Now, I'm not saying that's what it'll be like for everybody, and I'm also not saying I'm special.
Yeah.
But that went away. Then my shops started to do what they were doing and fall away. And at one point, I got into a confrontation. I had opened a shop in Wentzville. It was next to Maggie Malone's, if you remember when that was there. It was like the Irish bar that used to be on the Parkway. So I owned a tattoo shop there for about 6 months. Mm-hmm. And then I was off the LLC. Because a partner and I, we're friends again now, but in the moment we had some beef and just drama. Mm-hmm. I remember going home and telling my wife I'm unemployed. And she says, good. And I'm like, how good? She's like, everybody knows that's not for you. You're the only person who still thinks it is. So that leads, I'm trying to kind of speed through a little bit, but that leads to searching for, okay, if God's knocking and I'm trying to answer and I quit drinking and that hasn't been, like, it was hard, don't get me wrong, but not terrible. I got all these tattoos. I kind of regret them at this point. I'm no longer in the tattoo industry. I only tattooed my face because it made people want to come to our shops. Like, that dude's got a face tattoo. He's cool, you know?
Yeah.
Like, if I'm being honest, it was all ego.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what am I going to do? Couldn't figure it out. Started just praying. Didn't know how else to pray, so I went out into nature, and I did backpacking trips, and I did, like, negative temperature camps, and basically... And I didn't realize I was doing this then, But like the whole marathon or the whole like 22 mile and workout and all of that, that's essentially trying to go into the wilderness. It was like what did Jesus do as soon as John baptized him? Off he goes to be with the Father, right? Yeah. That's what I was trying to make happen. So, and I don't remember. Maybe I read that scripture and was like, I'm doing that. I have no idea. I can't remember. But that's what I did. And in that process, and I was by myself, by the way, not with people. In that process, I started hearing God's voice. And one day, he says, I want you to become a cop, and I want you to become a mentor. And not like a bush on fire in front of me, okay? I didn't get like the top of a mountain in sacred land. But it was just like an innate knowing, like, this is exactly what it is. And I responded to that first by being like, no way. That's not a real thing. And then it continued. And so finally I just said, okay, I'll do it. Now remember, tattoos. You go to my Instagram at Guildfellow. You'll see pinned on the top is old picture of me with septum ring and all this stuff. You can probably see through my nose every now and then from where you're sitting.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but okay, yeah, I agree. So I go to my wife and I'm like, I know what I'm going to do. She's like, what? I'm like, I'm going to become a cop. She's like, oh no. Right? Like she wants to support, but she's like, there is zero chance that this is happening. And I just didn't take no for an answer from the world.
Did you show up to like the police academy with the
I did,
face tats and
I went
everything?
through, they were still in the process of coming off while I was at academy. And there's a whole, I mean, man, it would take forever to really explain to you all the ways God moved. Mm-hmm. But I like to use where Jesus is talking about if you encounter a man of peace, like, let him be a man of peace. So it's kind of how it went. It was like I found a laser company who I love to plug if I can. I would love to do that.
Dude,
vanishing point laser removal. It's vplaser.com. Check them out. They're awesome. They actually did the removal for free.
Wow.
Because so they did it for people in the tattoo industry. It's like a marketing kind of networking thing. But I've been out for a little while. But they're like, your story is really cool. I had a great tech, Stephanie, out there. And actually, at the time, their piercer was working a lot of days. He was the only piercer, and he wanted a day off, and I still had my license. So I ended up working a day a week. So it's like God even provided that. So even the gratuity that I paid didn't come out of our pocket. So he aligned that, right? This like famous body modification artist, Steve Hayworth, who used to be a mentor of mine back in the day, flew across the country and fixed my earlobes and took an implant. I had a silicone ohm shape under the skin of my left hand. Took that out. I mean, just out of the woodwork, people just supported. I also got death threats and stuff, which was interesting because I was really public about what I was doing. Yeah. And I just went in head first, man. I joined a jiu-jitsu gym, the Wolves Den back then. I did everything I could. I started like, I'd never run a mile before in my life. I always skipped. I was like the kid smoking cigarettes behind the soccer sign. You know? Yeah. But anyway, I just started doing every step I could to answer this call. And to be honest, I don't even know why I went that hard. I just was like, okay, I said yes, so that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. So I know that's something that I struggle with a lot, man, is discerning. Like hearing God's voice. And I know in some big decisions in my life, there's been confusion. And I know that's not of God. That's not from God. Mm-hmm. Right? So you obviously knew. I mean, it panned out exactly how God kind of told you it was going to pan out, right? You're a coach, you're a mentor. Or sorry, you're a cop and you're a mentor. Like how did you know at that point in your walk? Like how did you?
I can't explain that. I think that sometimes God's voice is very, very clear.
Yeah.
And we're blessed to have clarity with what message He's attempting to give us. And other times we're just permitted to try.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that like there is this quiet. Okay, so silence and solitude is a spiritual discipline.
Yeah.
right? So if you feel like God's calling on you, I'm just trying to give an actionable step for that. If you feel like God's calling and God's asking you to do a thing, and you haven't spent time in the Word and time in silence and solitude, which doesn't mean isolation, by the way, it means with God. If you haven't done that and you're not clear on what He's asking, it's because you haven't talked to Him about it.
Yeah.
Not in a way that surpasses the morning ritual of waking up and trying to pray before you check your Instagram. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or just a quick prayer, like in the busyness of life.
Yeah.
I think that's great advice. You need to, like you said, not isolate yourself, but to go into a quiet place. Go in, if it's a closet or a back room or a basement, go sit in that quiet place and have your quiet time with God. And I think, the question it seems like you're asking is, how do you know when God approves?
Yeah, and there's advice I've heard for that before.
Yeah, same.
That is, if it feels like a push, like imagine that you're standing on the edge of a cliff, right? And the feeling is like someone's pushing, like if you were to go over, you're going to fall. That's Satan.
Mm-hmm.
If you're standing on the edge of a cliff, and don't stand on any edges of cliffs and go over, by the way.
Yeah.
But if you were to be doing that and you feel a pull as if you're going to be lifted off the edge and carried off, that's probably not the devil.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of interesting.
Dude, that's good, man, because I've definitely been at some kind of forks in my life where I've felt the first scenario, the devil, where it's like, man, if this happens this way or this decision's made this way, that everything's going to crash and burn.
Yeah, it's just like a lot of... I think that sometimes God's will can be perceived as pressure.
Yeah.
But if you really look at it, does God really pressure us to do anything? I don't know. I mean, there is certainly moments in the book where that occurs, but I just feel like, in my experience, God's stance has always been, I would like for you to do this thing, and I'm willing to allow you to not.
Yeah. Well, it comes back, I mean, one of my favorite verses, like 2 Timothy, I think it's 1:7. God doesn't give you the spirit of fear and timidity, but of power, love, and self-discipline. So if you feel fearful or you feel timid and you don't feel peace in making those decisions, it's not from God. Like God's going to give you, He's going to give you peace when you're making big decisions.
Dude, I'll tell you what, man, like selfishly having people on the podcast and like talking through this stuff, I've learned so much from the folks that we've had on, just in the conversations.
Yeah, same.
Like it's been a blessing to me as an individual in my walk, to be able to hear different perspectives and kind of piece it all together. And I would say so far everybody we've had on has been sound in their theology, if you will, and that's good. That's good, because those are the times, man, where I've also heard that discernment is a little bit of it's a gift from God, but it's also like a muscle that has to be exercised. And I know just where I'm at in life, like that's one that I'll think some things and be like, and then weeks later be like, no, that wasn't from God, but I was so confident it was.
Mm-hmm. It's a whole interesting dichotomy with all of it, right? It's like, so you accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior, now you're saved, and so you're going to heaven. It's like, and then the question is like, so why does it matter what I do then?
Yeah.
So you start to get, and we're not going to dive into all that; it'd take forever.
Right.
We don't necessarily have time to dive into all of it. The point I'm trying to make is, let's look at eldership. There's a list of things that an elder should be to qualify to be an elder for the church, right? Yeah. And it uses the terminology above reproach. Now, you can get into etymology, like the study of where the language came from and what it actually meant. And there's a lot of meat, and you should. I don't think that any Christian should read the Bible without making that part of their study. Just because I've learned a lot of things in a short time about what stuff meant, like fear God doesn't mean grovel on the ground, like afraid of God hurting you and punishing you. That's not what the original intent of that statement is, right? It meant to like adore, admire, right? Respect, go out of your way for the relationship with God.
Yeah, it's like in awe of
Yeah,
God.
yeah.
That's what I've seen too. So just a whole social media thing, and I know this will be on social media, but thing with Kanye, where Kanye has walked away from his relationship with Christ. I just saw this little clip on social media, and that was a big reason why he walked away. He was like, if God is love, then why should I fear him? And when you look back at some of the, and this is far beyond what I even know or understand, because I don't get into the Greek, under the Greek meanings for words and stuff like that, but the fear of God, like the Greek meaning, and I can't remember the two words that were used, but it's to be in awe of God. It's like, that's why, I can't remember if it was Moses, where Moses like, show me your face, and God was like, I can't. If I do, you'll die, essentially, because of all the glory and his holiness, you'd be in awe.
It's the whole point of the tabernacle, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yep.
So I think that as men, we have a great need to try to do everything right and correct and all this. And so I think that I like the elders metaphor, because it says to be above reproach. And there's a lot of stuff, like, I would just encourage you on your own, look up the original meaning for reproach and what it actually means. And we're going to draw into the actual point, which is, are you suggesting that men to be elders have to be perfect?
Absolutely not.
That's heresy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So in that, it's like this dichotomy of do your best to understand the word and share it accurately, while understanding and offering grace to people who will mistakenly say the wrong thing, because we have probably said the wrong thing on this podcast.
Yeah.
That's
Right?
so good. Yeah.
Yeah. And be prepared to offer discipline to any person who would do that intention with nefarious intent.
Yeah.
That's good.
You know?
And that goes like to some of the conversations you and I have had. It's like, we do have a responsibility, because we are trying to share the gospel. We have a responsibility to live up to, we felt like, but it's like, sometimes I feel like it's like, I'm trying to figure out the best way to word this, but you're afraid to make mistakes.
Yeah.
And like, obviously if they're intentional mistakes, just like you said, then you should be reprimanded.
You have a moral failure. There
Yeah.
should be church government, church discipline.
sure.
You should be protecting the people there, not leading the people astray. And
Yep.
if you chose to tell the people that this is okay when it's not okay, or whatever, that would be problematic. So we need to do it, but to prevent a person's walk because it's like, man, I said this one thing and it was wrong. Well, yeah, duh.
Yeah, like we're afraid, like to be afraid to make mistakes, even like unintentional mistakes. It's like,
you know who's doing that to you? The devil.
That is the enemy.
Can I get into Genesis for just a quick second?
Yeah, do it.
I don't know what time we got here, but Genesis is such an interesting book to me because we have this whole thing of like the Adam and Eve and the apple and like the blaming of women and all these different things, right? Yeah. Can I just explain, if you don't know, that the first time the creation story is told in Genesis, it's like a summary of what occurred. Mm-hmm. The second time it's told, it's done in an order, and you see that God did all these things and said that he saw it was good, and then he creates man, and he's like, cool, and then he realizes that it's not good for man to be alone, and so he creates an ezer, right, a helper for him. Mm-hmm. Not a slave, not a servant, right? Mm-hmm. This is important, husbands.
Yeah,
all right,
very important.
So God does this stuff, and then he brings all of the creatures before Adam to be named by Adam, which is like, I think I've heard 2,500. I don't know how accurate that is. I'm not that deep in the study of it, right? But he brings all these creatures, a lot. Takes a long time.
Yeah.
In front of Adam to be named, and it says that a match could not be found among them. Then he creates woman, and Adam says, finally, right? Finally, there she is. Now, here's what's important. Before all of that happened, God's introducing Adam to the garden, and he tells him what he is to do. Right? You have dominion over this place here. You're going to care for this. You're going to do this. Don't eat from this. Don't eat that fruit. Then all the animal naming and Eve and all of that stuff occurs. Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So Eve now eats the apple, brings the apple to Adam. They have their conversation, and she eats. Where in the Bible did God tell Eve not to do it? Doesn't.
Yeah.
Tells Adam. They eat, realize they're naked, hide in a bush. God comes walking through the garden, right? He's like, where y'all at? They're like, nowhere, God. He's like, get out of there. They come out. He's like, why are you hiding? They're like, I'm not hiding. You know, whatever.
Yeah.
He's like, did you eat the apple? Because they're covered up.
Yeah.
And they're kind of like doing the kid, like, you know, whatever. And God's like, my guy, I'm God. I'm aware you ate the apple.
Yeah.
You know, who told you that you were naked?
Right.
And anyway, so then what does Adam do? He says to God, you gave me this woman. You, who isn't as sovereign and as smart as you think you are, gave me, who isn't as capable as you unfairly gave me a job I'm not capable and strong enough to do, this idiot.
Yeah.
This weakling. Mm-hmm. Right? And so he calls down upon each member of that conversation. And then God says, what happens now? Which I don't know if I'm accurate, but people view that as like, this is your punishment. I view it as this is what you'll now see life as. Because you have the knowledge of good and evil, man, you will realize that work is hard. And your sinful heart of the only son, right? The only child that wishes to do nothing but serve his self, who wishes for nothing but complacency and comfort and not leading, will seek to not lead all the days of your life. And all the days of your life you will be called upon to lead, and you will fail over and over and over again while you work to the end of your days to have bread. Woman, now that you know things about good and evil, you now know that childbirth is painful. Will multiply your pain in childbearing. Right? You now know all of these things. And because you have the sinful heart of the middle child, well, you will realize that you were created second in the order, not less important, just not first. And that your whole job is procreating and bringing more life into the world. You will fall into the sinful heart of the middle child who says, everything I have is for my husband or my kid. What is for me?
Wow.
Yeah. So he says all of these things to her, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, these are the things I didn't want for you. And then he looks at the snake and he's like, but I got something for you. And that's when he starts talking. That's the first time Jesus is mentioned. You know what else God does right before he puts them out of the garden? He takes their figs and he slaughters an animal and covers them up with the thing that he slaughtered on their behalf. That's the second time that Jesus is shown in the Bible.
Wow. Dude. And everything you just said there has a direct correlation to... And the way you obviously weren't like reading from scripture, like you were doing it in a way that's like
and telling the story. Yeah,
dude. I mean, that's how we act,
dude. Everything, when you start to see it, everything comes from the original sin, and you start looking around you at the other men and all the things we don't. This is what the 22 miles is for. It took me 14 miles to put myself down and pick the Spirit up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How stupid is that?
yeah,
Dude, I was actually, because of Matt coming on, Matt was like, hey, read first, Genesis 1, John 1.
Yeah.
Genesis 2, John 2. So I was only at Genesis 2. I read that yesterday. I've never put all that together. That, like, the way that we behave, the sin of today, is depicted in Genesis, and we're told what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And it's right there.
And I mean, realistically, man, I'm not like that farther than anyone else in my walk.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm no theologian.
Right.
And so there's probably parts of that I paraphrased wrong.
Yeah.
But I think the general heart of what I'm trying to get across is true, that you can look to the original sin and go, we are still doing that today.
Same thing. Mm-hmm. Dude, you're paraphrasing of Eve. Like, that goes on. I mean, we see that in our marriages. Like, we see that all over the place, right? We see the passivity of man to not want to lead their wives and their families. Like, dude,
Yeah, that was the big thing that I heard. It was like poor leadership as the head of the household. Like, he knew what not to do, but he didn't lead his companion, his partner, his wife in the right direction. And you saw how it all exploded.
Why was she alone? I mean, like,
yeah, and then he blames her.
You know, it's like, it's crazy. And not that, like, I'm not saying that women are so weak they should always be around us. We should always constantly be around them. But it's like, just the very fact of what was happening. She was off in the garden on her own. Did Adam even know where she was?
Yeah.
Like, what is the... So that's the other thing about the Bible, too, I sometimes meditate over is, these are like, we paraphrase what is already paraphrased.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? What was the total situation actually like? And I think we had to be careful using our imagination. I want to be clear, right. But it just... Did Adam even care what Eve was doing most of the time?
Yeah.
Or was she just like in the garden trimming trees and doing whatever she was doing?
Yeah.
Adam was just like, whatever, we're just both living here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. Just something to think about.
Dude, that's good. That's really good. So, man, obviously, you know, we're having this conversation, and you have this zeal for the Lord, right? We talked about a little bit about your story. Since you've made this transformation, since Christ has, you know, God has allowed, you know, this transformation to happen to you, like, what have been the benefits? Like, with your family, with your life, like, what have you seen?
Everything. I know that's like not a super great answer,
Yeah.
but
it is. I mean, yeah.
But everything, man. I mean, just pursuing residency. If you have the opportunity to go to residency, if you have the opportunity to join a Bible study, get involved. Because even in that, like during that, ask God to refine you is the point I'm trying to make. Because even in that, like things that occurred, my wife and I are talking one day, and she just straight up says, "How come you never pray for me when I'm upset? You always try to fix my problems, or you try to figure out when it's time to just listen, but you never grab my hand and pray." And it's again Genesis, right? Am I so embarrassed of the Lord? Like, I know God did what He did for me because there's no question that He did it. Yeah. And I'm embarrassed to pray in a private setting with my own wife over her while she's suffering. This is the attack of the enemy. So the things that here's a better answer. The things that the devil has control over starts to leave.
Yeah.
Here's the caveat to that. Once you declare yourself an enemy of hell, you are at war with hell.
Dude.
For the rest of your days.
Yep.
Right? So God will equip you to fight that fight. And He actually already did when Jesus died on the cross, right? Because you're fighting from victory.
Yeah. So I was just going to say, the battle's already been won.
Yeah, the pain and the struggle starts to lift over certain things. It doesn't mean that this isn't prosperity gospel. Not all things change.
Yeah.
I think sometimes my testimony points to, if you believe in Christ, He'll save you from all the stuff and everything. Is like as if nothing terrible has happened since. Things have.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is those burdens start to lift.
Yeah. No, we always talk about that because, like, one of the things coming out of this, you know, the show is we don't want people to think it's sunshine and rainbows the day that you accept Christ. It's just, you know, and we've talked about it with multiple people. It's like, man, we went through a lot of hard things when we were young and we didn't have Christ. You know, our dad passed away, multiple family members, buddies, like we were around death quite a bit, and we didn't have Christ during that. And so the weight of that was pretty significant. And we didn't know how to manage it. I mean, it showed up in a lot of negative ways. And then it's like now that we have Christ, it's not that those things are gone. It's just the way in which we handle them, the foundation that we're standing on when we're going through that, it's just so much different. You know, we talk a lot about some of the things that we've gone through, and it's like, man, yes, it was hard. You know, yes, we mourned. But since knowing Christ, it's like, man, there's this underlying peace in it, in the trials and tribulations that from all of our experiences, you don't get when you're on the other side of it.
Yeah. Because you're trying to do it all on your own.
Yeah.
What's crazy about trying to do it all on your own is you've already committed to the same thing, the same thoughts everyone else is committed to that the devil gave us, which is really just a fence.
Yeah.
Am I enough? Am I loved? And guess what? If you knew you were, you wouldn't think about it, right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't need to explore it.
Yeah.
So since you think you aren't, now you live your life looking for evidence that you aren't, while at the same time telling yourself that you can do it all on your own. I thought you weren't enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the reality is you're not enough.
Right.
You're enough for your family, for the people around you and whatever. And in that same way, you're not enough to save the world on your own. That's not your job. That's not what you're here to do. Jesus did that, but you are enough for him.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's where it goes. You know, once you accept that, you do start to get that peace.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean that's exactly how the enemy works. It's self-reliance, right? Like we talk a lot on here, like the self-help industry, right? It's to get yourself to a place where you're like, oh, I just need to read this book and I will go figure it out. Like I will be, and it's like, dude, every single time I've done that, I'd be lying to you if I didn't say that there was a very minor temporary change, temporary being the key word, and then it all crumbles back and there's still this big void and everything sucks and you're like, yeah. So yeah, I mean that's what the enemy wants. That's big in our society right now.
I was a shield operator for 4 years. Still technically it. I'm more of a boring desk cop now, you know. But I was in narcotics and apprehension for half my career, you know. And I don't have a super long career, let me be honest. But executing search warrants and whatever. There's a time for tactics, you know. It's not like I'm taking off my vest and being like, it's on you, God, just walking into houses.
Right. Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. No guns, whatever. I'm just like, I'm shaking fingers at bad guys. Yeah. Like, God said, come in here and get you. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm not doing that.
Right.
There is a time for tactics and strategy, and I think that personal development is very important when it's used for the kingdom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, on our group, we will tell people, you know, goals are, for lack of a better way to say it, right? Goals are BS. And people are like, whoa, what? It's like, no. They're important. You should set them. But the reality is that if you're not on spiritual mission, you're not going to have fulfillment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, dude.
Because you're just chasing one thing after the next. So stop having goals. Set a spiritual mission. Why does my life matter? For things bigger than me. Okay? I'll segue to purpose here in a minute because that's important too, I think, to understand. But I have a spiritual mission, and now instead of goals, I have objectives. So even the new truck I want to buy somehow is serving the mission that I'm on for the kingdom, right? Understanding my talents, all these different things, tying all of that stuff together.
Yeah.
Purpose, what we see is instead of doing that, people sit around, they're like, what's my purpose? So I've been doing this group, the Guild, since 2019. And I don't consider myself a war fighter, all right? I'm not a gunfighter, whatever. I've done a crazy job that most people won't do. I accept that about myself. But I'm talking about we're working with people who legitimately are war fighters.
Yeah.
Like multiple gunfights, blown up, shot, the whole nine. These are people that you would assume would understand the definition of the words task and purpose.
Yep.
Right? They don't. We go, hey, what's purpose? They just... To me, it's, what are we, in liberal arts college, you know? Like, no, it ain't to you. Words have definition. What does it mean? I don't know. Well, then what are you crying about? You're sitting around being like you're upset that you don't know your purpose. You don't even know what purpose is.
Yeah.
So once we realize that, it's like it's so serious. So you start to go, well, what is purpose? Purpose is why something is done or created. Did you create you? No.
Right.
So how are you attempting to claim ownership of purpose of yourself?
Yeah. I mean, it comes back to where do you find your identity?
Yeah.
God. If you find your identity in Christ, you'll find your purpose.
Yeah. God created you, so he owns the purpose for you. You don't get to own your purpose. But
dude, that's
all people are here. We are advancing the kingdom with the talents that we're given on our salvation until Jesus' return. That's your purpose, the only one you have. And you also have the power to create with your talents. That's how you get it done. Use your talents, create a mission, know why you're doing the mission, i.e., who you're serving with the mission, purpose. Pursue it with the utmost level of your capability, and now you have fulfillment. It's just that simple. It's not complicated. It can sometimes be difficult.
Yeah.
Right? So in the guild, we have commitment, contribution, capability. What am I committed to? Are those things in check? Am I committed to the right things? Yes? Cool, move on. No? Remove some, add some, whatever you got to do. Next, how am I contributing? To the best of my ability, am I actually contributing? Yes? Great, good job. No? Why not? Is it your commitments? Are you not contributing to the things you should be contributing to because you have too many commitments? Remove some. Go back to step one.
Yeah.
Right? If those are all in line, go to your capability. Are you not contributing because you didn't grow yourself with personal development?
Yeah.
To serve the mission to the best of to contribute to the best of your capability? Well, then you need to grow your capability. Repeat.
Yeah. Dude, that's awesome, man, cuz I've been in that position where I've had I don't know how many coaches, and we've touched on this purpose, this big broad thing of purpose. And some coaches, they do let you get away with, oh, my purpose is to love my family and be a good man.
It's a mission.
Yeah. Well, and they let you get away with that, and I was like, man, I have not to this point, I have not felt that degree of fulfillment until I've started like intentionally walking this walk, and for me, trying to help people come to Christ.
Yeah.
And like everything outside of that, everything that I wrote down, which I have notebooks full of it. And to your point, I mean, none of it was fulfilling. Like none of it was. I mean, we've all, it sounds like we've all accomplished cool things. It's like I thought, like, oh, when I graduate West Point, fulfilled. Nope. When I commission, when I get out of the Army, when I go do this, when I start this business, and it's like, nope. None of it gets you to that point.
Yeah. And it's all self-driven stuff.
Yeah, man, that's good.
You pursue personal development without, if there's no spiritual mission, you pursue personal development for the same reason people do drugs and alcohol and look at porn.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to fill a Jesus-sized hole with whatever you can.
Yeah.
When I do this, remember enough and loved, if I can just do this, people will love me. If I can just do this, I'll be enough. No, you won't.
Yeah.
That's not what it's for. If you accept Christ, if you accept that truth of the gospel, all of that you've been searching will be yours in an instant, and you will have to continue to fight to hold it every day. Not your salvation, but your knowledge and your mindset over it.
Yeah.
Because you get your salvation when you get your salvation, right? And then the Holy Spirit goes to work on you the rest of your days in sanctification. So, but you are now an enemy of hell.
Yeah.
And the devil wants you to do poorly at life. Mm-hmm.
Right. Dude, that's amazing. Well, man, I know, like I said earlier, we could probably sit here and talk for 4 hours. Mm-hmm. If you have one piece of advice, this is what we always try to leave folks with. If you have one piece of advice for the person that's on the fence, maybe they're not a follower at all, and you could just give them something to kind of get going. Maybe they were inspired by your story, something that you said landed with them. What would that piece of advice be?
I think in a situation like this, most people would be like prompted to push you to do something that would lead you to their coaching program.
We're only selling Jesus, baby.
Right? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say Yanu. It's an exercise we do in the guild, which is free, by the way, first responders, veterans, some civilian options as well. Doesn't cost. We're just going to help you get that spiritual mission. But there we do a thing called Yanu, and it stands for You Are Not Unique. And the idea of it is that you get in this circle and you share things with each other about your life that stays in that circle. And if anybody can raise their hand, or anybody can relate to it in any small way, they raise their hand. And the reason why we do it is most people think that they're isolated on an island.
Yeah.
Here's the advice part. You're not on an island. You're not unique. You're suffering different things in the same way as everyone else. The brain is the body. It's not mind, body, soul. It's flesh and spirit. The brain is the flesh. You are not your hand. You're not your car when you drive it. You are the operator of your thoughts. Start driving the car.
Dude, that's good. And that, I mean, you've probably articulated it the best with that ending line, but I mean, that's kind of what we've been trying to push across to people with this platform that Christ has entrusted us with. You are not alone. Mm-mm. No matter what you're going through, no matter the thoughts you have in your head, no matter the things that have happened in your past, you're not alone. And there's somebody that can relate, and there's somebody that may be a little bit further along in the healing process. But that was great, man. That was articulated fantastic.
Comes from there.
Yeah,
It's
sure.
weird,
Yeah.
man. Just the
Yeah.
Well, dude, great having you on the show. This has been a lot of fun. I've learned a lot. I'm just my brain right now is just contemplating things. How can people get in touch with you if they want to get in touch with you?
JustinStewartHD.com is my personal website. You can go to Instagram @GuildFellow. And then if you want to know about our nonprofit, you can go to guildfellowship.com.
Awesome.
Cool.
All right. Well, thank you for listening to another episode of the Knock Podcast. Again, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it, Justin. And that's all we got for you guys. Thanks for tuning into The Knock. If this story moved you or made you think, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs hope. Follow us on social media @The Knock Podcast for more content. And remember, God is always knocking. The question is, will you answer?